Welcome. Welcome. I'm Stephen Garvey with National Citizens Alliance. We're going to be going through the central bank digital currency. I know a lot of people are not aware of this, but this is something that's going on in the backgrounds. We're going to share the relevant facts and we're going to have an important dialogue of what this means for Canadian society, the world at large. Some people support it, some people don't, and but we're going to get to the bottom of it today. The first document, and we have a few of our distinguished members here today. I can't have that one on, so we're going to go right to what is M1, M2 money supply. It's important that we understand what's going on. So right here, this is from the principle of economics, and we're gonna look at the meaning of N1 and M2 money supply, so you understand that. And according to this document, and this is consistent with the many other M1 money supply includes the monies that are very liquid, such as cash, checkable, demand deposits, travelers checks. M2 money supply is less liquid in nature and includes M1 plus savings and time deposits, certificates of deposits, and money market funds. We're particularly interested in M2. We think this corresponds more closely to the central bank money printing, but it also includes M1. But M2 encompasses N1 as well. And there you have it. If you have any questions, please add them. So now we're going to shift. It's important you take a look at what's been going on with the money supply in Canada. This corresponds to other Western nations, Asian, and so forth throughout the world. And we have this document here. This is the M1 data from 1968 to 2021. And you can see the graph here. So to understand this from an economic, financial standpoint, it's important to understand that in 1971, Canada shifted the public lending right from the Bank of Canada to the central banks. The Bank of Canada now acts as a central bank, whereas previously it acted as a national bank of the people of Canada. And what's happened, the central banks have been printing our money. Every time they print the money, they dilute the currency. It becomes devalued. Your savings become less. It's important you understand that. And they charge interest when they print the money too. But recently, the governments, because of the economic situations, they've been pushing the interest rates down. So help triggering into financial bubbles. And we got our here. I can. And we're going to go back into this. We just got one of our members here. I'm just trying to bring her in. If I can push that up. Vaughn's in there. How do I get that? Thank you, Vaughn. Having connection difficulties.
Me
Okay.
too.
Are you in? Are you in? Okay, excellent. We got Marcine with us. So I'm going to go back. This is M. I'm going to go into M2 now. And you see M2 in 1971, they shifted the public lending right. And you see they've been increasing the money supply through the years, steadily up. Prior to that, they weren't doing anything with it. Now in 2005, under the Harper regime, you see it spiked up, and then it continued under the Trudeau regime, and then we got into the lockdowns, and it's been parabolic up. And we see that even into 221, the Central Bank of Canada said they were going to taper it, and it looks like it's not much of a taper, at least up to February here. They've been increasing the money supply there, which is diluting the currency. It's actually inflation because your purchasing power is less, your dollar is worth less. So it's important people understand what they're up to and how they're impacting everyone. You see that there? That's undeniable.
Deep state shenanigans.
Yes. So I'm going to shift now. We're going to look into what is a central bank digital currency. A lot of people don't know about it. The media doesn't talk about it, so we're going to talk about it today. Welcome, Philip.
Oh, thank you.
I'm getting some feedback, everyone. Philip, at your
All right,
end.
sure. I'll turn off my microphone here. See if that.
Yeah, thank you. That helps. So we're going to shift now to what is a central bank, and I have a document I'm going to refer to right here, and this will give us a basic understanding of it. And there it is there. So basically, they're called CBDC, central bank digital currencies. And these are a digital currency. It's like cash, paper cash, but it's digital. It's issued by the central bank, and they're hoping it'll be universally accessible. The government considers it legal tender, just like a fiat currency. They would be acceptable for a form of payment, act as a claim on the central bank or government. And they're claiming here central bank digital currencies increase the safety and efficiency of both wholesale and retail payment systems. No physical coins, notes are available to individuals in the digital society. And I believe that that's what they want to do. They want to get rid of the paper currency. All money is exchanged in a digital format. It becomes a cashless society. And we're going to talk about the implications of this. The pressure on governments to adopt this is, we would argue, this is part of UN Agenda 21, UN Agenda 2030, the Great Reset. But as other countries adopt their digital currencies like China, Sweden, it's putting pressures on other central governments. You can make a case that the cryptocurrencies was a testing ground for this. But we're going to get into a discussion later about this. There's the retail central bank digital currency. This is traceable, anonymous, available around the clock. It offers possible interest rate applications. There's a wholesale central bank digital currency, and this increases payment, security settlement, efficiently resolving liquidity counterpart risk issues. There's the China digital yuan right now. Sweden has the e-krona. Bahama has the sand dollar. Eastern Caribbean area has the DXCD. The Marshall Islands has what's called the sovereign. These are all digital currencies. So this is what's coming. I'm going to look at the central bank now of Canada. It's not the bank of the people. It's part of the central banking cartel, the central banking system. So here's the Bank of Canada. They're quite forthright about this. They have it right on their website. They're talking about the central bank digital currency. They're claiming it's about preserving the value of money, supplying Canadians with banknotes, overseeing the important payment systems. But they call it Project Jasper. I don't know where they came up with that name. They're working on technology to create this central bank digital currency. Phase one is using the DLT, which is called the distributed ledger technology for the settlement of high value interbank payments. And then they want to build this into a bigger platform to test for clearing and settlement of high value interbank payments. Phase three, integrating cash on ledger, other assets such as foreign exchange securities. They have partnered with the Monetary Authority of Singapore and the Bank of England to work on cross-border, cross-currency settlement system for the next phase of the experiment. So what they're doing is building a central bank digital currency as we speak. This shows it right here. They're working with the BIS Innovation Hub Center in Toronto. And they're also teaming up with other central banks because they're part of the central banking system. They call it the central banking community. But that's what's going on in Canada. And there was a bomb share recently. I'm not sure how many people were aware of it, but it was Federal Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve. He dropped a bombshell about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago on the Federal Reserve, mentioning that they're going to create a federal currency. So I'm going to play the video of Powell's statement. It's about 5 minutes. I want to be objective here, but I find this guy pretty creepy, and I don't believe everything he says, and I see flaws in his argument. But we came to the conclusion the other day that these central banks are running the world. That means the Federal Reserve is at the head of that pack, right? The U.S. is the reserve currency. But let's listen directly to the source. Just briefly about this bombshell he dropped last week. I'm going to play the video now.
Sure, even with the audio is difficult.
Yeah, there's no audio, Steve.
There's no audio?
No.
I'm hoping there would be. Hold on a second.
Really, really weak.
No, it's definitely an issue that
There's no audio?
really can't ignore is the digital currency and the fact that there is definitely a looming large push. It seems to be driving us in that direction. Okay.
Did you check the audio level for this YouTube?
Stephen, would you be able to summarize what this is, and we could perhaps have a link
Yeah.
or something we can carry
Yeah,
forward for viewers?
yeah, excellent idea. So this is the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell. This was announced about 2 weeks ago. He announced that over the summer they're going to be doing another serious look at a central bank digital currency. So they're going to be working at it. They're priming the public for this. I'm going to put a link in the comment section for people to review that video. But this is reality. Now, before we get to our dialogue here, which is the most important thing, I want to talk about the China social credit system, because this is what this links into. And I have another document I want to share. So this is on the China social credit system. And this is an updated document as of March 2021. The goal of the China social credit system is to provide a holistic assessment of an individual or company's trustworthiness based on a numerical score. The China social credit system, while still in development, is arguably an extension of existing social rankings and ratings in China, which have existed for millennia. And they're using the AI technography, facial recognition, the whole AI system to take it to another level. The consequences of a poor social credit score could be very serious. It may affect travel prospects, employment, access to finance, and the ability to enter into contracts. On the other hand, a positive score could make a range of business transactions for individual corporations much easier. It is essential that any foreign business consolidated establishing their presence in China seek professional advice on the social credit score.
Right, but we have the similar system with our own Equifax and Better Business Bureau. I mean, you can go on any business that's rated on Google. People put in all kinds of reviews, so it's not as if they're doing anything different.
Yeah, but it's actually it's going further. There's travel bans on people. There's school bans. There's reduced employment prospects. There's increased scrutiny. There's public shaming.
What's the source of the information? Because there's quite a lot of propaganda coming out of the United States right now, because U.S. and China are in the middle of a trade war, and obviously
Yeah,
China.
fair enough. Hold on a sec here. Here's an individual
That's all fake.
yeah. Apparently
There's no-
jaywalking.
What's also fake?
Jaywalking, walking a dog without putting on a leash, smoking in a non-smoking zone, cheating in an online video games, whatever. There's all these different ways that they track people. But this relates into a central bank digital currency. It's important that people realize that they will have access to your finances through a central bank digital currency. They can control your finances. You don't have any privacy now because everything is in central bank digitalized currency. Marcine?
It's
Yeah,
utter and total control.
Yeah.
It's
So you see the
interesting.
connection, right?
It's so obvious to me. Interestingly, it's very obvious to me that Powell has a powerful narrative that keep people blind to the true intent. Their usual speak.
Yeah, there's the points I want to raise tonight about the digitalized currency, we're going to get to these beautiful comments. I'm going to post a link to that thing on Federal Pal. Everyone should be watching that. The first thing that comes to my mind is the privacy issue. So this is going to be, there's going to be no cash, because right now when you pay with cash, you can do that anonymously. There's no record of it, and they don't know who's paying for anything through cash. So we're going to lose that. Through the digitalized centralized currency, the central bank is going to know all the transactions instantaneously, who's doing them, how much, where they're buying, from who to who. Right?
And if
They
they
can
don't
do
like it, you
instant.
get punished.
They can do instant taxation on your money in your account as well. They have complete control over your money potentially. There's capital
Yeah, can I
controls.
address some of the comments?
Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead,
address some of the
Richard.
comments on? Well, considering one of the panel members is from Hong Kong, I don't know if these comments are really appropriate. I mean, I think it's the West that's the Western government is doing things far beyond anything that China is doing. So why are people deflecting blame onto China as if suddenly China is the cause of everything that's happening? You know, it's the same with this China virus, Wuhan propaganda stuff. It's pretty obvious the perpetrators of the whole thing, this whole pandemic, are Westerners, right? It looks to me, that's my opinion, is they're trying to frame China. Why would China be stupid enough to start a pandemic in their own backyard? Why would they agree to that? There's nothing in it for them. You know, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that issue today, Richard. We're focused on the central bank digital currency. Okay? And this is happening in China, Sweden, Richard, the US. It's not Asia or the West. It's happening all over the world. I would make the case that what they're shooting for is a global central bank digitalized currency. That's their end game. That would there would be no more cash.
The total control plan.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
just skeptical that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, are these countries going to go along with it? I'm really skeptical that China
we'll have
will
to
ever
see.
consider being dominated by Western financial system.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what plays out, Richard. But I'm talking about goals here. But the one thing we do know is that all these central banks are pushing for the central bank digital currency now. No one can deny that. It's going on in China. It's going on in the US. It's going on in Canada. It's going on in England, Australia, you name it. Richard, there's no denial of that fact.
By collapsing the fiat, you're able to then require a savior. In the 1930s, the savior was everyone's gold in the United States of America. It was bought out at, was it $30 an ounce or something like that? And the price doubled.
I think it was less.
At the point the law changed. Okay, yeah, but it was low. And
it was low.
It was actually against the law to possess gold.
Yeah.
And, you know, currency of old. The current currency is now paper or coins. Well, that was deleted through your debit card and things. Well, now it's entirely can be tied away to a digital system and everything. So all transactions are digital. Everyone can be recorded. Every single coin transfer can be taxed or tracked or otherwise have criteria linked to that transaction that, I mean, to the likes of that we can't really understand even right now. I think it could be so all-encompassing.
Exactly, Philip. And
financial
go
slavery.
Ahead. Yes. This is I believe this is very concerning. It's invading our privacy, our control over our wealth. You know, if they get rid of cash, like paper cash, are they going to go after people with people's gold and silver next? They're already attacking. You could argue that they're attacking the cryptocurrencies right now. They had a big fall, and who knows where they're going to end up. They're going to end up. These cryptos are going to end up competing with the central bank cryptocurrencies, right? So what's going to happen there? They could actually make cryptos, non-central bank cryptos, obsolete as well.
Yes.
Yep.
You could
So
have a
that,
regional currency that would actually require you to reside in your region. Like everything is completely
Yep.
possible. So in order to transfer from zone 1 to zone 2, you may need a different currency system. Everything, when
Mhm.
you're in a digital lock system, you're at the condition of the beholder. And so um, we do have to consider that we have a large population. I know that's a looming issue that everyone likes to not really like to press on, but there are groups that would
yeah,
consider resource management a major issue, and through controlling the currency, you can on a macro scale manage resources throughout the earth.
yeah. So this is going to give the central banks pretty much complete control over the financial system if everything is a central bank digital currency. They're going to have the real-time
Exactly.
data.
Mhm.
They're going to know exactly what their policies are doing, the impacts. But then we get into another scenario where they can use that to manipulate people, similar to what China's doing through its social credit system, where they can manipulate them to act in certain ways. Um, so this is very concerning. Uh, Look at where the world's going, and I want to get to Tim's comments here. He's with us, and he's made some really good points here. Yeah, the social credit score, and we have some forms of it in the West as well. Richard, we're not denying that, but that's the most developed, and you need to understand. In China, there's a lot of Western companies helping China implement this system, and it's just dictatorship and control. And
No, I'm just commenting. We already have the already in place with Better Business Bureau rates coming. We have the S&P index, the S&P 500 index that rates all companies with credit scores, Equifax. I mean, uh, how is their social credit score? I get what you're saying, that they're going further, but don't companies have a right to uh, establish who they want to do business with? And I'm just kind of being a bit of devil's advocate here, because some of the rhetoric that's being used now with China is has has propaganda attached to it. There's this big campaign coming out of American Western newspapers, news media right now, because of course China has grown far bigger than the Western elite could ever imagine. You know, and so that the New World Order cannot allow these alliances to Russia, China. I know about 6 weeks ago, Iran signed a 25-year trade deal. That's just enormous. It's barely even made it into the news. So, that's I'm not saying your analysis not correct. I'm just pointing out that maybe there's other things happening there as well.
Yeah, that's fine, but there's a lot of stuff going on in China. They have one facial recognition camera for every Chinese person. They're tracking them. There's no denial of that, Richard. Do you
Yes,
understand
no,
that?
I agree with you. It's happening.
We also know
What's
what they're
happening
doing to the Muslims in the north, right? That's not
the Uyghurs?
propaganda. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Uyghurs in the north.
Let's not forget the people of Tibet.
There's a lot of information.
Mhm.
Also,
Can you, Richard? Can you turn up your volume?
sure. Is that better? Microphone closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. You're pointing out some of the issues that, of course, China, just like any superpower, is going to be stepping on a lot of people's toes So we're not denying that. I'm just saying that the elephant in the room is that it's the West that's pushing so much stuff that that makes China pale in comparison. Like just America, for example, has 17 intelligence agencies. Like I don't know if you've seen the buildings that are in major American cities that have no windows on them. Have you seen these NSA buildings? Just they're massive, uh, 50-story buildings that have been popping up all over America. Um, so I just pointing out that we're trying to deflect blame. Yes, of course I agree with you. Yes, the 5G stuff is happening all over the world. Countries everywhere are building these smart cities because they want to control their populations. Because the global economy, every nation needs to produce and has to have this tight, productive economy. So all its citizens have to get up and go to work every day and produce and do their jobs. And that makes their economy strong so that they can compete on this big global market that we've got going. So I'm not excusing it. I'm just pointing out that's what's happening.
Yeah, but we're
I'm
talking
agreeing.
about essential. We're talking about a central
Yeah.
bank digital currency. Okay, the
Yeah.
reality is all these central banks are moving to a central bank digital currency. They're gonna they're putting a lot of pressure on the cryptos now. And ultimately what they want to move is to a cashless society. So everything, all the transactions will be digital. Your money will be in digital form. There will
Right,
be
but
no paper currency.
you know more about it than me. So
So
how
what
are they
that
going to get
means, forget about
the
China, US. We're not going to get caught up in that dichotomy of division, right? This is about the central banks throughout the world. And what this is ultimate control over your wealth, your money, your finances, your life.
Okay, so how in your opinion, like I said, you're better informed about it than me, but how in your opinion are they going to merge all these currencies? Because there's we have 200 countries. How I
It's
just
incremental steps. The first step is to get the central bank digital currencies going. It's important the public know that the central banks are working on this. Marcine, are you in support of a central bank digital currency?
I am absolutely wholeheartedly against
Why?
digital centralized
Why?
currency.
Why?
It's
Explain to
dangerous.
our viewers.
For for all the reasons that we just went through, absolute and total control, absolute financial slaves to a system now. We essentially given up the last of our rights, our control. It's very dangerous path.
Yes. it, yeah. Once.
Excellent point, Marcine. I just want to add a point there. What fears me too, after they go after cash, they may go after people's precious metals because those are a
Oh,
form of currency.
Stephen, to that, I would say there's no stopping them after they control us financially, is there? I mean, that allows them the ability to decide if we even get to eat.
Yes,
We're
that would
talking
be
about very
ultimate
basic.
control.
Yes.
I'm
That would
talking
be
about
ultimate
ultimate
control.
control. It's a very,
Yes, it
Well,
very
would.
dangerous path.
well,
And it's
Your
well, one
bad
has to
ability
look
to
enough.
at.
even
Sorry.
your ability to even earn is at risk.
Yes, and the
This
plan to launch this is soon. It has to be soon, given the measures that are being launched. Your ability to speak is going to be controlled and censored very soon, with total control, where it can be to say things that are outside the. I put that in a comment here. They're taking the ability for citizens to defend completely. The ability for citizens to defend themselves by limiting and restricting and completely prohibiting certain firearms, and possibly going further. They're restricting currently how you can move, how you can travel, and potentially how you can work through tests and requirements that do shift weekly, and people are tolerating all of this. Um, the, you know, a digital currency to up the ratchet and affect permanence is, to me, it's terrifying. I'm absolutely
It's
very
scary, isn't
concerned.
it?
Yeah.
It's very
People
scary.
ought to be
Imagine,
terrified. Hmm.
yeah, imagine a global central bank digital currency, no cash. Imagine that. How much control? How much confidence would you have in whatever little
Zero.
wealth you have? They're
Zero
just numbers
confidence.
on the screen.
Beyond my wealth, I'm concerned about my ability to just keep living.
But look what the central banks are doing now. The money printing. I showed it to you. That's inflation. That money, the line going up, that's diluting the dollar. It's devaluing the dollar. It's devaluing your savings, your wages, everything.
It is a siege on the people. When the medieval times, when you would siege a castle, you would cut off the water supply, and that would affect the surrender or a final battle. What have they done? If you have a digital currency, you can turn off the water supply. You no longer have an income. You now must
So,
surrender.
so
Yeah.
Marcin, I'm envisioning in this dystopian society we're heading into, and you could argue that obviously there's some digital components now, but once they get these central bank digital currencies going, it's going to take it on a whole nother level. If they get rid
Yeah,
of cash, they start to go after precious metal. They get rid of the independent cryptos, push them, right? What are
pretty
people going
clear
to
to
do?
me.
So you know what's going to happen? We're going to go back in time, and there's going to be just raw bartering. That's something they can't control. Where you give like some vegetables for a chicken or something, right? You're doing a basic exchange, barter exchange. That's
Yeah.
something they can't control.
But they
Well,
can
Stephen,
if you cannot go to a group of more than 5,
Yeah,
and you can't
if
converse
it
on
comes to
anything
that,
but social media, right?
Marcin.
I feel the picture is much more grim. I feel like we're heading to complete and utter slavery. They're not going to care about you bartering for your chicken and surviving. I think we will literally slaves. Many people will be eliminated, and the rest of us will be slaves. And
Would you
I'm not
argue?
going to go down that path, but it's not pretty.
Yeah. If you've read much about the Belt and Road Initiative, I know we don't want to get into China, but if anyone who's played Risk, the board game, you know that you're taking on the grand scale. I like to think of things in a macro and historical sense. They've acquired assets and acquired basically nations or posts and naval bases all over the world through trade ports. They now have infrastructure in Africa, all over Asia, parts of Europe, Caribbean, South Central America, and Canada, etc., where they have buses, they have the trains, they have the power plants. Once you own all of the assets and basic power production in the nation, the farming production of a nation, you now hold that nation. It's now a vassal state. You're able to now farm that nation and extract resources back to the capital. It's a reestablishment of the mercantile system incrementally
Right.
over potentially a
You
40
notice,
to 50 year span. And you
you know the
influence
source of
leaders of
the Belt and Road
nations.
Initiative, where it came from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
Marcin.
and you,
Yeah.
Richard,
it,
raise your
it gives
mic
them great
level.
power.
Raise
I
your
think that's as
microphone,
loud as
Richard.
it goes. Can you
Okay,
hear it
yeah,
all
we can
right?
hear you.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me
we
all
can hear
right?
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead,
So
Richard.
the Belt and Road Initiative that you're addressing is a massive infrastructure plan that was announced in 2015. Now, this idea did not originate in China. It comes from America and Canada, who people have been trying to make this plan happen. Lyndon LaRouche is
Yep.
one of the main Americans trying to get this plan happen. And the linchpin of it is a Bering Strait tunnel or bridge connecting Alaska to Russia, which would connect the entire world with rail, high-speed rail, passenger rail, and freight rail roads. And that's the long-term plan. What China wants and is partnered with Russia, because China can't do this without Russia, and for a variety of reasons. But they want to get the West involved with this, especially Canada and United States, so that they can build this Bering Strait bridge. Despite people's alarmist, Western alarmist problems with China becoming this powerful, because yes, of course, they're going to be the benefactor of this massive infrastructure plan, but they're also putting up all the money and the risk. So, I mean, that's just the way capitalism works, right? So despite all the alarmist elements in the West, because this is going to reduce Western hegemony across the entire globe, and it will increase trade with all nations on the earth, as much as people don't want China to be the one steering the show here. The Western elites are not partnering. You know, the EU, Canada, and America are resisting any partnership with China, but that's what they should be doing, instead of confronting China militaristically with trade wars and sanctions. And you know, we've got 800 American military bases encircling Russia and China. So you know, just
Okay, but we're going to have to stay focused, Richard, again. It's not about that topic. We don't want to get caught up in divisive politics, China, Russia, US, East versus West. Then we're I'm going to contend, Marcin, then we're caught up in the game of manipulation. Okay,
well, I'm talking about the New World Order, where borders essentially dissolve, leaving a one government, one bank, and the rest of us are subject to. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Yes. Well, I want to talk about, hold on, Richard. I don't want to go off topic. No, we can leave that.
Topic, like who's the New World Order, and how are they going to implement this massive...
it's through the central banks, Richard.
Right, but I'm saying they have an enormous challenge to do it.
They do.
Countries like China, Russia, Iran.
It's incremental. The China's central bank already has a digital currency, Richard.
Sure.
The West is building. You got to think bigger, Richard, but it's all incremental steps. I want to get back to what Marcin was saying. Marcin, I want you to elaborate on this slavery. Is this going on now?
I mean, all the signs are pretty clear to me that that's where we're, you know, they're trying to, I mean, look at us. We're all locked down and, you know, exposed to these medical measures, shall we say, super dangerous. They control the media already. So most of the population, the masses, are already well programmed, deeply programmed, let me say that. So as you say, very incrementally, I mean, incrementally taken us to this point. So how much more, I mean, we're willing to accept this. I mean, look at us walking around with these sanitary napkins on our faces. If we're willing to do this, what won't we do?
Yeah, I'm very...
step by step. This is terrifying, Stephen.
Yes, it is. The fact that we would lose control over our wealth is terrifying. The fact that we, you know, cash is something you can possess in your hands. Gold, silver, same thing. If we lose access to these things, Marcin, and everything
freedom.
Is just
zero freedom.
It's literally controlled by the central banks, and it's just a digital currency.
Let us take that a little horrible step further, and if you don't do as you're told, you're eliminated.
So you see this, Marcin?
I see it so clearly. I see it so very well.
I have concerns.
There's no guarantee they're going to succeed in these plans. That's the point we should be pointing out.
Well, the thing is, they have to be resisted.
Yeah.
Well, the fact
they're not going to succeed. It's going to fall apart and
If
Well, that's
nobody
your
says
opinion.
anything, that's what
But-
happens.
But
They succeed.
Marcine,
People have to recognize that they have choices right now. You know, right now we have choices to wear things on our face or not. I mean, we've lost already so many freedoms. I mean, we are no democracy, and if people think they're
Yeah,
free, I think
exactly.
they need their head examined.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not
So
free people.
the last time we met, we all came to the conclusion that the central banks run the world. And
Of
I'm
course.
wondering if today we can take it further. If they implement a central bank digital currency, right now it'll be on the nation base. But if that evolves into a global central bank digital currency, how much control can you possibly have then, Marcine?
Well, I think one thing that people need to recognize is they have some choices here. You know, whilst they're pumping trillions into the economy, setting it up for certainly a collapse creates a window. We have choices. There's cryptocurrencies that are available to us at the now, gold and silver, and fiat currencies. So, I mean, and digital cryptocurrencies will be a choice for people, but it's a deadly choice. So I think if people just try to avoid lusting after the free money and the powerful narrative, and you know, if they understand the potential dangers of a cryptocurrency, we can make some choices that perhaps can guide us to maybe a brighter future. Because the digital centralized currency is a deadly one, and that's
But
my
you know,
opinion, of course.
but you know what's coming is the spin. Oh, how it's going to make everything so efficient.
Well, they're very
Uh,
clever at the linguistics,
yeah.
aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
So this is where people really have to be critical thinkers, you know, and take a look not only at those, but what do you see? Like, think about this. Not don't just do what somebody, you know,
Yeah.
these things. Do your work.
And people need to be careful of these dichotomies, these divisions,
Clearly.
and stay
This
focused
is why I
on.
think this is why these these conversations are so very important, because who runs the media? Well, the deep state does, and all they're doing is making digital currency, digital centralized currency sound good. It is not good. There's nothing good about it.
Yeah, I
I mean,
agree.
this is a
Well,
topic again, and
listen to Powell. He's crazy. He's just full of it.
yeah. Well, he's
Yes.
lying all the time he speaks. He says
Every word. If
inflation is
his mouth is
transitory,
moving,
right?
if his mouth is moving, he's lying.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is nothing new either. This is an issue that,
Not
again,
new.
it's been
Not
carrying
new.
on for generations. I can read a quote here from Nathan Mayer Rothschild, and this was
Yeah.
well over 150 years ago. And it was, "I care
Yeah.
not for what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply."
Those
And
Rothschilds.
you know, and I mean, this is something that they're, you know, this mysterious group now that no one really talks about, or they're gone. And you know, I think the family's done a good way of extracting themselves from the spotlight. And I mean, you know, if you have super wealth, I mean, absolutely, you would want to do that and really live in a. I mean, I don't know how they would even live. It would be incredible, probably, but this is something that's gone on for generations now. That there is this established super monarchy of a oligarch group that now
Thousands
has,
of years.
yeah,
Thousands of
and
years. Yeah.
you know, I mean, it really goes back to, you know, in even simple times, there was the Knights Templar when you were carrying your gold to the now Holy Land. Well, it was more efficient to carry notes, and the Knights Templar would guard your gold, and you know, just in a simple principle. And they became a super powerful organization out of that that had to be crushed by the French crown.
Yeah.
And it's something that things repeat themselves. The terms are different, the players are different, but really the series of events have great amalgams. And
They've infiltrated every structure of power, and they're very clever with their linguistics and their programming. I mean, they control everything. They control because they control the media since the beginning of time. I mean, the Knights Templar is simply the Order of Malta, and there's many orders around the world.
Yeah, no,
Complete
it's a really
and
good
utter
point.
control.
And people need to realize that they need to think about this central bank digital currency. It is coming. There's already the China has a digital currency. Sweden does. We see them in the Caribbean. The U.S. Fed is working on one. The central bank in Canada is working on one. All throughout the West, they're working on central bank digital currencies, and they will be part of a digital currency system. Marcine, understand that.
Mm-hmm. I
So
understand very
even
well.
yeah, even though we're not a global central bank digital currency yet, that's their end game, I would argue.
It sure is.
But
It's pretty.
these are all going to be digitalized, right? So that's pretty scary to have that much control.
And incrementally
I
knocked
have
out to be made to one currency.
Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm not sure if there's any way to have a disclaimer because I'm reading the comments to my right, and it's some personal attacks there on the speakers.
I'm not going to address those. I'm going to
Yeah.
point out the relevant ones, Maria.
Yeah, I don't think that you know, these comments are appropriate, like the F word and all that stuff. I'm just not.
Yeah,
comfortable with
exactly.
that.
But that's
But
we can. We're not.
And I don't
we're not.
and I don't think that we're off topic when we're talking about the Silk Road project because this is a discussion, and I think that it's pertinent to what we're talking about. And I don't want to focus on doom and gloom. I want to focus on solutions.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
also, but the purpose tonight, Maria, is to focus on what's here, what's coming, and
I know I've heard all of this. This is not new information to me. I want to focus on solutions. Thank
yeah,
you.
the solution here. The fact is, the central banks rule the world, Maria. They control the government. So what are you
I'm
going to
aware of
do?
that. I'm aware
So
of
what are you
that.
going to do, Maria?
Exactly. That's what I want to talk about.
What are you going to do?
I
Have a
don't know the
protest?
answer. I don't know the answer, but I want to
You know what
discuss
we're
it.
doing? We're having a
I
dialogue on it.
Yeah, all this stuff is not new to me. We're just
Well, it's
reading.
new. It's actually new to a
Some,
lot of people.
yeah,
we
some
have to
people
cover
don't know.
topics.
So can
for-
we focus on solutions?
Yeah, I want to look at some of these comments now, and then we can draw it out further. But
Okay.
I think this Andrew Simpson, he seems pretty enlightened, Marcine. He
Yes, I've
said they must.
noticed.
He said that they must destroy our economics, and then after come out with solution which
Yeah.
is better than current one. But all this was planned, of course. I've heard a
Yes, and
lot of. Go ahead.
I agree with Andrew in that the collapse will create a window, and people need to be savvy. But I think this is where we fall down is because people, the masses, are willing to look at the hard facts.
Yeah, when a nation
Exactly.
falls, you have to move fast. If anything, of
Exactly.
the fall of the USSR, it should be a lesson actually for people to know what happens when a nation truly collapses. And what we saw, and really what's happened in a lot of those nations, is pre-established governmental groups such as the KGB, potentially mafia organizations, or municipal councils, that sort of thing. They were able to rally together quickly because they were already established and organized. Previously, the government had separated citizens because of the monitoring and state surveillance, which we're experiencing now. So if there was a collapse, there would be certain groups that would be rallying quickly to power, and you'd have to be looking to who those would be. And it would be the military, the police forces, firefighters, potentially doctors and nurses. I mean, and those sorts of things do potentially become an issue, and one of those groups will reach preeminence in what would be the new ruling government elite. If there is a collapse, which leads to a national collapse, which then requires digital currency. So, like we're really living in a great unknown where you know, and it sounds
Well,
fantastical, but it's not out of the realms of possibility anymore, and it's really a wild scenario. And so, how do you plan for a future and a solution? That's a really tough
truly,
question, right?
It's
we
It
are.
is
important.
the $1 million
Yeah,
question today,
yeah, but
and I
it's
think it's
We
important.
an
are.
open one.
Yeah, but it's important to try and understand what's here, what's coming, and so that you can prepare for it. And we've seen with COVID that it was used to do certain things, right?
Yes,
It was an opportunity.
yeah, and I think you're
So
right, Stephen, too, with barter and trade,
I
that
think
you
it
do
may,
consider that to be an option, and to know that you should have multiple skills, and not to be like a survivalist or, you know, a prepper or whatever you want to label folks, but to know that you can change your tire on a vehicle, grow your own food, heal your own injuries, multiple skills that maybe you have that others don't, that you can again trade for um, services or whatever, along with items you may have that can be stored.
yeah,
And I think there is a time to consider that now, just as a hedge, just as you would buy stocks or you'd buy bond, um, to ensure other futures. That may be a wise investment. Again, it's hard to advise anyone because there's so many variables.
yes,
Yeah.
there is. And here's Andrew again. Marcin, look at this. What is really going on is extremely very disturbing. So much so that I had to order an additional plate carrier. Do you know what that is? Maria, do
Additional plate.
you know what he's?
I
What
do.
is that? What is that?
Uh, a plate carrier is what you would carry in the armed forces or in the police forces or something. That would be a kind of tactical vest that would have slots
Yeah.
that you could insert armored plates.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there was, yeah. So it'd just be considered that, you know, that a lot of people are considered they're that much of a threat today. Really, I'm very
Maria,
concerned that
could
the
you
I'm
heated
not going
mute
to
event.
your
disagree.
background?
Yeah.
Okay. Does someone have a dog in the background?
Oh, sorry, that was me. Yeah.
Yeah. It says here the IMF have embedded over in China for some time now. The U.S. husk is now dry. The vampire has jumped hosts as stated and planned. Interesting. Marcin, these are the central banks.
Yes. Yes, indeed. The IMF again. Deep state
Yes.
linguistics using fancy
Yes.
words like International
Yes.
Monetary Fund, which does not fool
Yes.
me.
This one here, the building of the NWO has been in the works for 2,000 years. Wow. And now we arrived at the point that they are ready to drop the hammer on us because most aren't paying attention, right?
Plus, they weakened us with this pandemic. You know, we're in uncharted territory. And to your point back there,
Yeah.
Uncharted territory, and they've weakened us by simply keeping silent, keeping us separate. So how can we gather and talk about things?
Exactly. And here's Andrew again. I've watched and waited for many years now. This is it. This is happening. Prepare as such, or stay out of the way and remain on the couch. So
Yeah. Please, Andrew, though, don't do anything rash.
no, he's not. But he's going to
Yeah.
protect his life. He's going to.
He's
Yeah.
allowed to have his feelings about it.
Yeah. It's terrifying that's, and I share your feelings, Andrew. I'll be honest. I think a lot of us have concerns that there's been just far too many coincidences that, again, I have a client history. Nations that restrict and remove property from their citizens, restrict the rights and freedoms of their citizens, restrict the speaking of their citizens in such rapid succession, do not have our best interests at heart. And
Yes.
that's it's unfortunate. And then we face an election looming in the future, and who do you pick out of every group that essentially agrees with what's going on?
Remember,
Yeah,
the central banks are pulling the strings, Philip.
it's true.
Remember that. Just keep that big picture in your head. And people should be alarmed by the money supply. And that's why I posted it at the beginning. They don't understand the inflation component of it. Most people don't understand how it's weakening their savings. They don't understand that.
It's designed to collapse the economy. It's purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
these central bank digital currencies, they're going to have complete financial control. People don't fully grasp that yet, which is very concerning.
On heels of an economic collapse, people are scared, so they'll jump right onto a digital central currency without even thinking about it because they're terrified.
And you know what it links into?
Very dangerous.
Maria, it links, Maria, it links into what's called the universal basic income.
Yep.
That's correct.
So it's creating more and more dependency on the central banks.
Yep.
I don't even say the government because the government is an extension of the central banks.
Yes.
It's all the
right?
same.
Right? It's all
one and the same.
Government is now inconvenient, though. Government has regulation and rules. When corporations can establish policy, the rules can be set by the corporation. Right? And, you know, if we have a digital currency, who's to say we need to have the government of Canada anymore? Why do you have the United States of America anymore? You can have the North American, I don't know, group, whatever. And these groups could literally then establish policy for everyone. And I think once we're seeing these large scale changes, it is going to be a macro management style that we'll see. There will be a lot of people forced into the bottom scale of the economic cycle, and there will be a very small, super elite groups that may live in a different place. We may never see them. There'll be the groups that could just decide what the points are in the new interest rates, or how much of your savings you're going to lose every day that you don't utilize or spend on something. You know, the policy of a digital system can be anything, and you could maybe earn $100 a day in this new system. Well, the savings fee could be $1 a month in the account. It could be if you don't spend it after 90 days, you may lose a percentage rate or some other promotion. And these things would then they'd sell this as to encourage economic productivity because you must spend. So therefore you buy running shoes because if you don't, your money will be gone anyway. So someone has to make running shoes and then they have a job. So it could be an arguably a good idea, except ultimately it's a race to the bottom for everyone.
Yeah, maybe.
And,
yeah. Maybe that's why these central bankers now they're saying the money printing doesn't matter.
No.
It's infinite.
That's right.
Marcy?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just digital numbers. And with the central bank digital, like they'll just keep.
Yeah, look at our properties now in our homes.
It's a fake economy.
Yeah, so my house is now worth over $1 million. And 9 years ago, I paid $300,000 for this house. So it's an irrational increase. If I were to sell, however, if I wait 2 or 3 months, my house is likely in the current market to go to $1.2 million. Well, great. What do I do with this money now? And further, people that haven't already bought in are further out of the market. Eventually, if I sell, I won't ever be able to buy back in. And if this can keep rolling for just a little while longer, you can drive the market so that really citizens are forced out. and you can have large corporations or groups or large wealth individuals buying up large swaths of land, because in the new system, that debt was meaningless anyway. It would be the same as, again, client of history, Cassius, who was the one who fought Spartacus, basically selling the land of Spain to the Romans, making a fortune, and becoming dictator of Rome through his power. It's classic carpetbagging of the citizenry and driving you out by making the cost of living and the cost of owning land far too much that only the noble elite can have it.
Yeah, here's this excuse me, fight for freedom. He's basically saying what we've been saying. It's a transition from the existing world into this, I guess, new world order. I would argue that it's a transition to the so-called fourth industrial revolution, the AI technocracy, which includes the central bank digital currencies. And you can see it here. He's claiming that they will lose in the end. Hopefully they do. They have a lot of power. We'll have to see what happens. They have a lot of control.
I agree with for freedom.
Exactly.
They will not
it's
win.
all here. Lori here says people are brainwashed, in denial. It's here. And it's being developed. And
people are deeply programmed and brainwashed. Yeah. She's not wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for your support. You got to talk about the central banks. If you don't talk about the central banks, what are you doing? Right? That's at the root of it all, isn't it? So
I agree, Stephen. You'd be remiss to not address it.
Yeah, and at least Andrew recognizes that fact. That's why I call Trudeau now. I call him the central bank puppet, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
the central bank puppet, right? So
he has audio
Biden,
tape. He just can insert in his
Biden,
back. Just
Biden, the Federal Reserve puppet, right? So,
So I just want to say something. Yeah, I mean, how sustainable is this new system that they're putting in? You know, I mean, for people who have a lot of debts, mortgages and stuff, maybe they may not do well. But the people who own property, 2 houses, you imagine telling them you own nothing, and people are going to stop paying property taxes. Who's going to support city, right? And the CERB, I mean, how many wants to be collecting that money, really, and where is that money coming from?
Yeah, I think the biggest liability is bank debt right now. So I mean, if you have credit card debt, mortgage debt, line of credit debt,
Yeah.
if
Then
bank rates were to go to, let's say, 1980s levels, and you're seeing 11 to 20% interest rates, you can really expect an economic crush, because then there'll be no more buying and selling of homes. You'll not be able to afford your mortgage anymore, because a lot of folks are well past their 30% income ratio for their mortgage, and it would just be a 2008 scenario as seen in America. Large sell-off would be required because you wouldn't be able to pay your bills, mass foreclosures, and then people would have to then go to the rental economy. And so the property holders that perhaps maybe would be able to leverage property that they've now bought, and were able to pay off somehow, or they just didn't have loan debt to it, they'd be able to do well again and just purchase more land again. It's a perpetual cycle of literally you buy up land, buy up land, buy up land. It's classic from history, and it's how people became immensely wealthy in the past.
Sorry, who's
and
throwing
this is how
dishes
it
in the
goes.
background? Who's throwing dishes in the background?
It's not myself.
So,
So it sounds fun.
somebody lives in a kitchen.
I muted my mic, so it's not.
So yeah, what you're addressing though, like America is over $30 trillion in debt, and Canada's per capita debt is almost the same. So this
Yeah.
is like a giant Ponzi scheme. Eventually, it's going to crash. I think what the Western elite are trying to do is keep the Ponzi scheme going as long as they can, if they can control the entire economic system of the world to a point where when it crashes, it doesn't really matter because they own everything. That's their end game. But I don't think they're going to succeed. That's the thing. The more you look at their plans, the crazier it gets. So I think people are definitely afraid, and of course, if you have assets, you own property, things that are happening. Yes, you should be very wary of what's going on as an individual citizen. So as on a global scale, I think they're just committing suicide is what they're doing, and so the whole system, the whole Western economic system is doomed. Like people have been talking about this for as long as I've been following, since 2008. The same guy who predicted the 2008, the guy they made that movie of, what's the name of Selling Short or something like that? That movie, the guy I'm talking about. Anyway, he
Oh,
predicted the Big Short. Thank you. Yeah. So the same guy said this whole thing is going to happen all over again. Nothing happened. They just pumped more money into the system and inflated the bubble even bigger. So it's all going to crash. You're going to see the end of the Western Empire is when the world gets off of the U.S. dollar, and that's going to come.
Yeah, but it's bigger than that, Richard. It's not just about the West, Richard. These central banks are all over the world.
China is not part of the IMF. They have their own central bank.
The IMF is working in China now, Richard.
Why would they?
They're all interconnected. All these economies are interconnected, Richard.
Russia doesn't have the IMF. They have their own central bank. They're debt free.
They do.
They have
they do.
Own just having a central bank is not bad. See, I think honestly, Stephen, I think what you're trying to say is the elites already control the entire globe. If they
don't control it, but
yeah, right.
There's elements of working, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
so the
issue of
is what they don't control is the thing you have to look at. Do they control North Korea? I find that highly skeptical. I've seen people say that the Western elites control the Chinese Communist Party. That's laughable. That's completely laughable. Do they control Iran? No, of course not. They're
okay.
bitter
Richard, the last nation that really stood against the IMF and these large banking groups was,
Libya.
The nation led by Gaddafi.
Libya, yeah, and they destroyed them.
So and let's and they were very thorough to air the video footage of Gaddafi being violated by a stick on the news to show to the world. It was a stick.
Yeah,
it was a
possibly a bayonet or man. That was very unfortunate how that man went. But that I mean, some may say otherwise, but that was a horrific event, and that nation is destroyed. It was a prospering nation in Africa. People should be lamenting that. And really, what other nation has stood to that except ones that potentially have nuclear weapons? There actually is a fair debate to what they're saying in North Korea. I think from what I have seen in the news, it does look cuckoo bananas how things operate there, but I can't say that the media messaging in Canada is a large degree different in ways. I mean, the way that censorship can occur and messaging can be a massive groupthink across every news organization at 8:30 at night or whenever it's aired. We get this misnomer that over there it's different. There it's wrong, or over there it can be strange, where we're righteous and holier than thou, and we can get into this facade that we're somehow better. And in reality, we can be worse.
The reality is this is coming from the West. I just hear this all the time. All over Facebook, people are saying, "Oh, it's communism, it's communism, it's communism." No, it's not. It's capitalism. This is corporate billionaires. The New World Order are billionaire monopoly capital. This is capitalism on steroids.
But you're always going to have rich groups. But it's a matter of how they are using their power, and the righteous power. There's such a thing as and how you're going to use it to basically affect others. And once you're a billionaire, you are affecting others, regardless of how you want to view it. And you can be just or you can be wrong. It's same as a noble of the past. And I think there's a responsibility there. And it seems that what we have now is a shift to basically being nefarious on a grand degree. And it can be terrible for the people who are involved in this. And I mean, there's records in China, and their great leap forward. I mean, how many people died to industrialize the nation of China? And if there was going to be a major economic shift, again, history says with every major economic shift, there are massive winners and losers. And a lot of those events in the interim there are horrific. And, we all have to consider that. Do we want to go down that path, or do we want to wave the flag and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this? Or how do we prevent some of these measures? And that there are empires, and yes, China may rise, America may rise, but at the end of the day, you have to choose, well, which one do you really want to live under? And it's not a simple matter of, oh, well, yes, they're just becoming more powerful, but do you want to stand for what you had before, which I thought was good? When I was in my teen years, the world was my oyster. I had a lot of opportunities in my 20s, all of those things. And maybe it's age, but incrementally those things have faded away over time. So there's a lot more limitations in what you can see as a future for yourself in Canada. And I may not be the only one feeling that way. I don't believe I am. And it's a matter of, well, what do we do now? How do we prevent the loss of our potential for future, or having a choice on how we're going to live our lives and who we're going to be and where we're going to live? Those are fundamental rights that we used to always consider just essential and just normal, and not something you even had to talk about. But now you actually have to consider them as being important.
We think about those questions all the time. We think about those questions all the time. It's not just today.
I want to talk about concrete solutions now. I felt like we kind of mapped out what's going on a bit further. I think we're all in agreement about the central banks, and I don't think there's anyone disputing the central bank digital currency, is there? That this is coming, that it will entail more control over finances to an alarming degree. I want to put to everyone that the way to counter this is through to be as independent as possible from the system, to be self-reliant. Because what the government is doing is making people more dependent on the government, the central banks. So you want to almost do the reverse. And this can manifest itself in a lot of ways. I think the most important step, Maria, is to be aware, have a really good understanding of what's going on. And then you can use that knowledge to make the best decisions. To be independent, we can look at finances. We can look at finances. Do you want to be dependent on the fiat currency? Do you want to be dependent on the central bank digital currency? I don't myself. So there's other option. You can go into the cryptos, Philip, but they've been under siege. So another option is precious metals. Some people talk about hard assets like real estate. So these are things people are going to have to make up their own mind what they're comfortable with. But putting all your eggs into fiat currency, eventually central bank digital currency, that's becoming dependent on the system.
Yeah.
Another,
I mean,
another thing is food too. We can look at food, your source of food. Do you want to be dependent on the system, or can you buy locally, grow yourself?
yeah, food is a
Right?
real issue, and it's things that a food crop takes, an X period to grow. A dog or a chicken takes so many weeks to grow to full size in order to be harvested or culled or used for food sources. And these things, if you're impacting labor, you're impacting wages. All of these things become unpredictable, and it really the food chain's been incredibly threatened when it was previously based on pre-established contracts. You would have restaurant chains would have bought X number of chickens at a farm at a certain rate that'd be predictable, so the farmer would raise 5,000 chickens, and then they would harvest them at $12 or $5 a head, whatever the rates were that was agreed upon in the contract. All of these things are gone. You now have these animals that may or may not be bred because the farmer would be taking the risk now. So you're going to see an issue where those animals are not bred, that corn is not grown, the grain is not grown, because why invest in your fields that may not be utilized by General Mills, because they're not going to buy your cereal because they're not selling enough, that sort of issue.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and it becomes a vicious circle where you'll have a food shortage, and
exactly.
yeah.
So that's another thing you could do. Actually, I've been growing my own food for over a decade now, and you know what's really ironic? I wrote a book on this in my 20s on the importance of independence, individual independence. So I'm gonna get that book, and I'm gonna have to get it out, and maybe I'll. Obviously, it was rejected by the establishment. They don't want to hear that, but it seems like it's really relevant now. So I'm gonna have to get that book out, um, and take a look at it. Uh, but I'm going to go through these comments. There's some great comments and coming in now, and so there's financial independence, there's food independence, information independence. Maria, is very important. Where you're getting your information from, everyone. Are you watching the programming mainstream media? Right? Are you using that for your information source? Are you going to reliable independent sources? Dialogues like we're having tonight. Maria, that's very important. This is the best counter to what's going on. To be fully independent as possible. It doesn't mean you don't have friends, or that can be part of your creating a network of like-minded people. That can be part of it as well. But these are the things people need to be doing. Under this lockdown, what did they do? They killed a lot of independence of small business. They locked everyone up. They took their lives away. So I'm going to have to review that book I wrote, and I will share that. And uh, this lady put up a comment. I don't think she was here at the beginning, but she was talking about cash as a way to get away from the system. But the problem with that comment is they're eventually going to make cash obsolete if they have their way with the central bank digital currency. But she's right in what she's saying. But be aware that with the money printing too, your cash is becoming less value. So cash itself is probably not the best way to go.
Unless we want
And
to
what's
go.
here, we are being organized like a machine, organize the human race for a complete track and trace, command and control. Yes, we see that.
And
Richard's back here.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
here's
gonna
this comment here. Hunting, fishing, gardening are going to be invaluable. Yeah, these are all things I do, something I believe in. Um,
As well as the trades.
the trades, being independent,
Yeah.
But it becomes a way of life, this independence, Maria.
Yeah.
It's not just financial, there's social, there's protecting your mind, the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting away from the fiat currency, getting away from these central bank digital currencies. Somehow. That's independence. The
Right,
whole
so
system is the whole system is suffocating freedom. It's creating dependence. So we want to counter that by doing the reverse.
Yeah, it's a tough thing right now because there is a group think where there's almost, I wouldn't call it virtue signaling, but a race to who can drink more or who can stop someone else from doing something because, you know, the old adage, oh, those darn kids down the street, that kind of thing. Or, oh, someone's speeding. Well, let's build speed bumps right away. You know, we have to suddenly respond to every issue or problem raised with some radical solution that maybe a standing off approach would just see that it was a one-off issue, or, you know, a simple fix could be a more rational way to approach a problem. And things have become very emotional and in politics, and it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't have to be, but it really shouldn't be that way because it is kind of irresponsible to make rash actions, especially when you're dealing with massive, you know, nations and populations. It's not something that should be done quickly or rash.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. This guy said he threw out his TV. I haven't thrown out my TV, and there's some entertainment I like, right? So I think that's a healthy thing. It's a healthy thing. But remember, there is programming. There's ads. The government, the federal government's putting out these ads on these vaccines.
Yeah.
Trying to brainwash people, right? So that's
It's
in
not
there.
working on us. It's not working
No,
on
but
us.
it's there.
I know
Yeah.
it's not working on us.
Yeah.
I don't listen to the mainstream news garbage, right?
Even
but,
if I did, I don't get affected
Yeah.
anymore. No, anymore.
I
No.
cut the cable
the
cord in
opposite.
2000, and I did math a little while ago, and I think maybe a couple of years ago I'd saved something like $36,000 in cable, and that's incredible. But there really is no value at all in what's on some of these channels. There, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I like to be programmed for is cooking.
So this permaculture.
I watch my cooking shows, you know.
Here's the
Right.
permaculture. This is something I did a course in,
Right.
but this is about you know, gardening and using the resources around you for a better life. But I think we would all agree with.
Can I say something about this?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all the things you're talking about are great, like on an individual level, that obviously we have to change our way of doing things and stop being dependent on like grocery stores for our food, like doing our own, going backwards really to the way our society used to be, where everybody had a backyard garden. That's how a lot of people survived the depression, because everybody had these little gardens. So there's that thing, you know, protecting our currency, not being subject to mainstream media. Though on a macro scale, when we look at our governments, the systems we have, the things that are happening, that's a very big challenge. One of the things that Philip brought up was the Silk Roads project. So, you know, it's not the focus of this group, but as a solution, I think we should have a discussion about it as a panel, because it's a game-changing thing that's happening, has huge ramifications for the entire world. And so I just suggest
we could follow up with that, Richard.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, Richard. In Florida, it was that Governor DeSantis. Actually, there was a speech, I believe it was last week or a week and a half ago, and he brought up that exact issue, and he talked about the need to mobilize the public into municipal elections, you know, and then, you know, state and federal elections, where people need to run. People need to vote. They need to turn out and say, look, if you want a different form of government, you need to do it. You can't allow others to come there and do it for you, and you can't allow other people to get into positions who don't really share their policies with you, or potentially are deceitful, or potentially acting in a way that would be outside of what your interest would be. Your role as a citizen, in order to affect a difference, is to vote or become the government yourself. And I think what we need to see as citizens now is we need to stop being so passive. We need to become informed on what the legislation says when they talk about the, saving children bill. Well, the saving children bill may be a giant tax that'll tax carbon and prevent cars from being built. Like, you don't really know unless you actually read the legislation. We need to become interested in these things. It
Yeah,
needs to
but
somehow be sold, and people need to get into it. And those folks that maybe have other ideas need to be in government now, and that's what really needs to happen.
yeah, but the whole system
In
is
any way.
rigged. Uh,
I
Philip,
agree.
the whole system is rigged. The establishment political front is just a stage. Okay,
Yeah.
you understand that, and so NCA's been trying to break into that. It's very difficult because you're up against establishment and
Okay.
its media components and everything else,
True.
right? So, and that's why this person says the voting system doesn't work, because all you have is the multi-controlled opposition,
Mm-hmm.
controlled by the central banks. So
Yeah.
it's not working because they don't allow independent party, independent thought,
Yeah.
right? So this is the machine we're up against. So, and that's part of the thing to that can be part of the independence thing as well, Philip,
Yeah. Yeah. I
to
mean,
fight the system. But right now they don't want anything to come in there that's going to shake things up, right?
so I mean,
So
the
they're
issue is it's not a matter of what they want or what they'll allow. It's what you'll tolerate. And I think we also have to, get away with, at some point, we are the free people. We need to stand strong and free if we are going to have a nation such that we desire. And there does need to be some level of, and there's a idea that, yes, there's a resistance, or you say, oh, I don't think this is a good idea. Well, if a group truly doesn't have your best interest at heart, they don't care what you say.
there you
And
go.
that your opinion doesn't matter unless it affects their ability to progress their policy. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
true politics. So unless you become the squeaky wheel that prevents their actions, or that you are able to take the power from them, there is no ability to affect or any type of change. Otherwise,
No.
we can talk in circles, but they can say, okay, yeah, go over there and talk. You do what you want in your safe space, and we'll continue to govern as we want.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. But
yeah,
anyways, but
yeah,
but this is an important part of the process. So we're engaged in that, but we're looking at the big picture as well.
true.
It's only a selection process for the next try. I would argue here it's only a selection process for the next puppet, because all these political puppets, that's all they are. They're controlled. So to anyone, that's a reality if you understand what's going on behind the scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to come back to our central point here, and thank you, thank you, Andrew. We're going to continue this, Maria. Maria and I were discussing this earlier in the week, but we're going to take on issues no one else is willing to discuss, Philip. And our agenda now is producing as much awareness as possible and connecting the dots on these issues. That's only we got to through the information, through the dialogues, empower the people. right? Because a lot of them are programmed now. We have to empower them so they can make better choices, better decisions,
Yes.
right? So that's the thing. But I think when you're talking, Philip, about freedom and this and that, it's important people practice it on an individual level.
Exactly.
What you're saying, and you have to take control over your life.
Yeah.
Try to take control over all facets as
Yes.
much as possible.
You need to be
Then
your own master.
I would argue then you're going to have the best possible life,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And I
So
think
that has to be the way forward, right? But I'm going to go back to what's going on, Maria, that the government wants you dependent. Everything is the reverse for a healthy society.
Mhm.
So that's the reality of it. I did write that book. I'm Philip. I'll have to share that with you.
which one's? Oh yes, yeah, I'd be interested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was interested in philosophy in my 20. I wrote a number of books on philosophy
Fair.
because I wanted to try and understand things. And one of the books that was the philosophical conclusion on the importance, the primary importance of individual independence.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I
So
mean,
interesting.
yeah, and always do you want to stress to everybody here that's listening to you want to develop your mind.
Yeah,
Education.
protect your mind.
eh,
Protect your
yes.
mind too.
Oh, sure. Wear a helmet. Uh, but
Yeah.
but
So
just a large breadth of knowledge. It would be your best tool right now.
yeah, we don't want to scare everyone with the central bank digital currency. We
Hmm.
want people to know that this is facts. This is coming. It's being developed, and I can only assume, Maria, that in 2, 5, 10 years it will be put into place,
Yeah.
and maybe during the next crash, financial crash, that will be the door opening. Philip, who
Yeah.
knows,
Who
right?
knows?
I
I mean,
have an appointment with my bank manager tomorrow, so I will talk to him about the central banks for sure.
I have an appointment with my bank manager tomorrow.
oh, cool.
That's coincidental, and I'll bring it up as well, Maria.
Yep. And see what he
Uh,
says.
well,
And
it's
I
a
have
she. It's a
it's a
she
she.
tomorrow.
Well, mine's a he. Mine's a he. And I have two financial planners. I'll talk to them as well. See what they'll say. Yeah.
Suggest
Yeah,
RSPs and
See
GICs.
how much they know about the Great
I
Reset.
think we're all coming to conclusions here. Would you say we're all in agreement on a lot of these issues
Yeah, of
that
course we
we're
are.
bringing up? And are you okay with the solutions I presented, Maria?
Yes. Yes, it's
It has to be the way, right?
yeah, it's just not sustainable. The plan that they have for us is just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
I'm looking at fight for freedom, but this is about control over your life,
Hmm.
independence, living the best possible life.
Yes.
The
And
last
not
thing you
living
want
in
to do,
fear.
and I want to get back to what Marcin said. We're all heading to enslavement, right? So we don't want that. We want to empower people. We want independence. Whether you're a country, right? Whether you're an individual, we want
Mhm.
that independence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's pretty much like this for the last 20, 30 years. Like you have a job. Like just think about the last 10, 20, 30 years. You have a job and they take all the taxes off your paycheck. You got to
Yeah,
pay all this due, all these fees. And by the time you take home, you're not taking home very much,
yeah,
right? So they're already doing it. You're already economic slave. Revenue
yes,
Canada wants to know every cent that you make, every nickel
yeah,
you make. You have to
exactly.
report it to them. It's already
Yes,
happening. It's already
yeah,
happening.
yeah, yeah.
It's nothing new.
But to play the devil's advocate, the government does need money to operate. Does it need it to the extent that it does, right? Uh, so people have to be creative in wealth generation. Um, some people have made a lot of money in the cryptos, Maria. Some people are making money in financial investments, other financial investments, real estate. So you have to be creative, right? and generating this independent wealth for yourself.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you work so hard all your life to put all your money in RRSPs and your savings, and hopefully that's not going to be taken away from you.
Exactly.
I don't think we're going to be expect too much from CPP or OH pension. I'd be surprised if it's not going to be reduced to 50% or less. So
I think you're going to be counting on your own self. The potential for the bond system or to be covered over by the pension funds is ominous. It's already been telegraphed by our finance / deputy prime minister when she was talking about accessing the savings of Canadians.
Yeah.
Interesting. Those thought balloons have already been put out there. Yeah.
So we're going to continue these dialogues next week. What are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at food security next week. So that's going to tie into the dialogue tonight. You see how it's all interconnected. So we're going to be looking at food security, what's in the food, looking at growing food for yourself, for your family, for your friends, that type of thing. And that's a very important topic as well. So we're going to be delving into that, Maria. That's going to open up a lot of issues, but it's all going to be tied to the same system. We're going to get into some of these corporations, the GMOs, the chemical agriculture that's going on. We're going to get into the globalist system, local grow versus global grown, right?
Yeah.
So
good topic.
These are important topics. So this is all interconnected.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, excellent point on that. This has created an opening. So we're going to dive into all these important issues week to week now. And we're going to have our dialogues. I want to thank all the people sharing comments tonight. It's very important that we get your feedback. It seems to me that everyone seems to be on the same page today, and that's very encouraging. And we're going to be going into the growing the food thing, purifying your water, and all that type of stuff, because that's essential. And I think everyone would agree. Without your health, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Stephen,
If you're sick, Philip?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say we may want to consider multiple second meeting in the week as well.
I think so.
Or
I think
a
so.
second weekday of the week.
Yes.
I know myself. I'm going to have difficult Thursdays, but so more people perhaps catch airings or have the opportunity to get into the discussions. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a call and we can talk about that.
Okay,
Maria
sure.
and Richard, do you have anything you want to share at the end?
Good discussion and informative. Thank you very much, Stephen, for hosting these meetings. I think they're really great.
Very good.
I'm enjoying them quite a lot, so thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, thank you for your contribution. And it's okay to have different points of view. And people need to realize that through those different points of view, we grow, and allows us to understand better. And it may be difficult at times, but it's important that when we're talking about independence, that we have independent thought and opinion in these dialogues, Maria.
Yeah.
And that we allow different perspectives within reason, right?
Yeah. And sometimes other people's opinion could correct your own, and vice versa.
Yes, of course. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We may be fixated at a certain point of view, but maybe what other people are saying is actually right on. So we just have to be open. Yeah. And like myself all the time, I tell myself that all the time.
So we're going to get into
into
this.
Yeah.
Andrew's talking about true basics of living. So we're going to be talking about that next week. That's going to be part of it. And I don't, it's kind of weird because I've been doing this for over a decade now myself. Andrew, Philip?
Yeah, I mean, as far
But
as it's interesting, yeah. I mean,
I feel like, it's something I've done, and I still do it, right? But it's just part of my life, right? So, but we're going to have to delve deeper into this, Maria, so people understand it on a philosophical level, on a spiritual level, the importance of it. And it ties back to the central banks, and they're wanting to control and and as Marcin said, enslave humanity, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
so let's continue our quest to be independent, um, free thinking.
yes.
Think for yourself, Philip.
absolutely.
As there was a German philosopher when I went to university, he wrote a book on it, on think for himself. Arthur Schopenhauer.
Okay.
Um, he wrote a fantastic little book on this, on thinking for yourself, and he talks about the importance of doing that. And that's a philosophy I've latched onto and fully believe in. And how could you not, Maria? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Because I think as human beings, we want to have a sense of hope. We want to have a sense of optimism, for the future. And I think we need to make changes and make it a better world ahead. It's going to be a
yeah,
goodwill once we defeat this.
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's important. People, it, someone could run off to a remote rural area, Philip,
Hmm.
and try and opt out of the system that way. But I've lived in small towns. I've lived in big cities. I've lived off the land.
Hmm.
You got to decide what's best for yourself. But I know myself, working with people like you today, that empowers me. Like I'm
Yes.
learning from you. It's so I don't want to lose that, right? If I'm isolated,
Yeah.
I don't think that benefits anyone, like
Well,
myself, right?
using the metaphor of our nation's past, the
Yeah.
Western encroachment, moving west to be away from the now encroaching settlers. Um, ultimately, you could only isolate for so long, and ultimately, you'll be overtaken. And if you think that moving to the countryside or moving to the off the grid and a few hundred kilometers north of here or where from where your geographic location is, eventually the encroachment will get you.
Yeah. And,
Eventually,
yeah.
you'll have to return to the city to buy supplies or something. Well, if you have now opted out of the system, how are you going to get supplies? And what style of life will you then have? And I think the system will tolerate you living like that off the grid potentially if the system is pushed ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but eventually it encroaches. You can see this in rural areas. They're
Yes.
deploying the 5G. They have Starlink through Tesla, which is
Yes.
beaming that 5G. Well, potentially all over, mainly in rural areas. So, and then you got the encroachment of development, Maria, more and more,
Hmm.
and then you get the system, the taxation, the utilities, all that type of thing coming in. So um, I don't want people to think that they can running away and hiding. I don't think that's a viable solution.
No. No. You must stay. You need to. This is
Yeah, and Andrew,
this is
Andrew,
that.
Andrew put
Yeah.
it nicely here. Look, he put it nicely. Avoidance is not the answer, but at the end of the day, you got to look after yourself. You have to do things that nourish yourself, right? And so I think next week's topic is going to be quite good, Maria. We can build off the topic today and talk about that. Then we're going to pivot. Following that, we're going to pivot into immigration. We're going to look at a couple issues there. So that's what's coming down the road. I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. This has been great. Um, And there's Philip there. We're going to close it down. Philip,
Okay.
do you have any last comments you want to make?
No, I think this is a really good discussion, and I think these weekly topics of importance and just airing them out so that we can discuss them, the public can get some input and share in the discussion. I think it's brilliant. It's a great model.
Yeah, and then we're going to do something on 5G probably in 3 weeks. We're going to engage that again. And that's something I've taken a lot of interest in myself. So I think we need to engage that, Maria, tie it into the big picture.
It's my passion as well.
And also look at the science and, but all these topics are interconnected. People need to realize that.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to come back from public health, individual independence, the importance of that, and how it relates to these issues. Right?
Yes.
And remember, the centralized digitalized currencies, they're going to love 5G and that fast network, right? That's going to make that network work.
Yes.
Right?
It's the data link. It's the capacity. For those who aren't computer tech savvy, it increases the bandwidth too from being this big to this big. So you're able to carry off that much more information down the data net so that, there can be the facial recognition that the cameras can actually be processing, and you have the data capacity for thousands of cameras where previously maybe you could only have 5. I mean, it really does increase the potential of the internet, and the future potential for it would be huge.
Yeah, I think we're on a good track now. I feel it, Maria.
Yeah.
And I feel. Go ahead.
Oh, and Stephen, I'm going to take this offline, but I'm going to ask you about the stuff that's going on in the sky.
100%. We can do something on that as well.
Offline,
You're talking about the geoengineering, right?
Yeah.
That's
offline.
real.
I
think we should. I think we will eventually do something on that. We're going to embrace all these topics. Anyone
let's
in
take
the
it
comments,
offline for now. Yeah.
We want people. If there's a topic we need to address, send it to us, and we have our members meetings, and we discuss and we reach consensus on these topics. But these are all interconnected, and we're going to continue engaging them and dialoguing and getting input from the public. They engaged a war on us, and we have to engage back. Yeah, excellent stuff, everyone. I want to wish everyone a great week ahead, and just think about what we're saying. Give us your feedback, and we'll keep building from here.
Yes, and summer is here, so enjoy the warm weather, guys.
Yes, of course. Thank you, everyone.